I think it's important to point out here that although we have a lot of Republican speakers and we have a lot of conservatives today, I think it's very important to note that a friend of mine who is actually not my political persuasion mentioned to me the other day that she had seen my name in a change.org email in which I was discussing about testing and why we shouldn't test children so much in a year. And I think the important thing to remember here is that whether you're Republican or Democrat, a liberal or a conservative, I believe everybody wants to make sure that Oklahoma children are learning what they need to know and that it's done on a local level. So please let's not think that this is a partisan issue. It certainly is not. And if we want to discuss it on those terms, certainly as a Republican, I don't want my Republicans falling in line with the Common Core. Next, I would like to introduce Tracy Montgomery to you. Tracy is the Oklahoma coordinator for the Parental Rights Organization. She recently had a bill that she actually ran with another legislator this year in order to protect parental rights in Oklahoma, and it did not make it to the floor for a vote. I think it's very sad when our legislature is not concerned about hearing bills holding up parental rights in a red state like Oklahoma. So please let me introduce Tracy Montgomery.
Thank you. Wow, that was a pretty tough act to follow there. I feel incredibly, can you guys hear me okay? I feel incredibly blessed to be able to be up here on this stage with such courageous people, everyday citizens, seeing the problems that are going on and willing to stand up and say, we have to stop this. We have to make a change. Nothing will ever change unless everyday people, like all of you here, are willing to stand up and do something. So, the fundamental right of parents to direct the upbringing and education of their children has been recognized and upheld for centuries. However, for more than a decade, parents' rights have been under attack from government officials and judges who refuse to recognize and even deny that these rights exist. 2 weeks ago, parents in New York learned this lesson firsthand when they found out that their children's personal information, including their names, addresses, social security numbers, attendance, test scores, homework completion, goals, learning disabilities, hobbies, disciplinary records, and even attitudes about school are already being uploaded into a nonprofit company called In Bloom. In Bloom is running a $100 million database funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Corporation in collaboration with Rupert Murdoch of News Corp. Those are two of the most liberal funding sources for UN-type programs in the U.S. Proponents of this system claim that this national database will enhance our children's education. No researcher, group, or organization needs personal, identifiable information to enhance our children's education. How do we know that the information will be kept from being hacked or exposed? Last year, hundreds of thousands of people's identities were put at risk because of security breaches in government databases. And child identity theft is usually not discovered until they're adults, which makes children's identity and their records even more susceptible to thieves. In Bloom's privacy policy even states, and I'm going to quote this, In Bloom cannot guarantee the security of information stored or that information will not be intercepted when it is being transmitted. Parents all over the country where these changes are taking place are voicing their concerns. Even the ACLU sees this as a major civil rights issue. New York's ACLU executive director said, turning massive amounts of personal data about public school students to a private corporation without any public input or parental consent is profoundly disturbing and irresponsible. The greatest immediate threat to our children right now is the violation of their privacy. The Supreme Court has always recognized that there is a sphere of privacy within the family. But this project takes personal information about each child without any parental consent and puts it into a database that is being managed and monitored solely by government agencies and private corporations who use it. Now, Representative Sally Kern authored House Bill 1384, called the Parents' Bill of Rights. In it, it has provisions that specifically state that parents have the right to opt out of any data collection instrument. It protects parents' rights to decide what information is given out about their child. House Bill 1384 will put a stop to this and many, many other disturbing trends we are seeing around this world. It states that the liberty of parents to direct the upbringing, education, health care, and mental health are fundamental rights. That's right. The state cannot infringe on these rights without narrowly defined and compelling evidence that government intervention is required. I'll tell you, some of the representatives that I spoke with and visited with about this bill refused to support it, saying that they didn't see we had a really great need for it right now. They didn't see that there was an immediate need. Even though there is clear evidence of the ongoing trend of government intervention in parenting, they would prefer to wait until there is a big problem here in Oklahoma. I hope that you will agree with me that we cannot afford this kind of reactionary crisis management, and we need to be proactive and sign House Bill 1384 into law. If we wait until our children's private information is published and intercepted and used by God knows who, no legislation will undo the damage. It is a Pandora's box that should never be opened, because once the data is out there, you can never get it all back. The time to act is now. Parents have the right, as well as the responsibility, to direct their child's upbringing in a manner that is consistent with their beliefs and with their understanding of each of their children's unique needs, talents, and abilities. House Bill 1384, it passed committee, and it was put on the calendar to be heard on the floor, but it never got heard on the floor. This important bill was not heard because leadership believed that the bill was going to be too controversial and take too much debate time. They decided instead to focus on bills that were easy and had no controversy. In other words, they decided to focus on bills that were useless. House Bill 1384 today is on what I call life support, but we are determined that it will be heard and voted on next session. In the meantime, we must be vigilant in protecting our children's information, and we must be vigilant in making sure that each of our lawmakers know how important protecting our children is by passing the Parents' Bill of Rights. Thank you very much.